What if everything you've been taught about happiness is a lie? In a world where success is measured by external achievements, titles, possessions, and social status, have you ever paused to question, is this truly fulfillment? Despite reaching milestones, why does a sense of emptiness often linger? Ralph Waldo Emerson, a visionary of the 19th century, challenged the very foundations of societal norms. He proposed that true contentment doesn't stem from external validations, but from an unwavering trust in one's inner voice. In his seminal essay, Self-Reliance, Emerson asserts, "Trust thyself, every heart vibrates to that iron string." This isn't merely a call for self-confidence, it's an invitation to embark on a journey inward, to rediscover the innate wisdom and divinity that resides within each of us. In this video, we will delve deep into Emerson's philosophy, exploring 10 transformative concepts. 1. The illusion of external happiness, unpacking how society's definition of success often leads us astray. 2. The inner voice beckons, recognizing and heeding the silent call of our true selves. 3. Freedom beyond circumstances, understanding that genuine liberty is an internal state. 4. Authenticity as peace, embracing our true nature to find serenity. 5. Spiritual self-sufficiency, discovering that the answers we seek are already within us. 6. The present moment's power, learning to anchor ourselves in the now. 7. Nature as a mirror, seeing our inner world reflected in the natural world. 8. Breaking free from comparison and fear, liberating ourselves from societal pressures. 9. Simplicity's sanctuary, finding solace in the essentials. 10. Living your truth, aligning actions with inner convictions for profound peace. Each segment is designed to not only inform, but to inspire introspection, guiding you towards a life of authenticity and inner freedom. If this journey resonates with you, consider subscribing to our channel for more explorations into profound philosophical teachings.
Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as a personal affirmation, write, "I manifest inner peace and authentic freedom into my life." Let's embark on this transformative journey together. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly. A child
opens their eyes to a world already in motion, a theater of expectations finely scripted long before their first breath. Be successful, the voices say. Earn more, be more, own more. And so the pursuit begins. We are conditioned from early on to believe that happiness lives just beyond our grasp. It wears the face of a promotion, the gleam of a luxury car, the applause of strangers. We are taught that meaning is a trophy to be won, that joy resides in outcomes, and that peace is a destination reached through performance. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? Ralph Waldo Emerson observed that the world is too much with us, not in the sense of physical proximity, but in the way it colonizes our minds. Society, he wrote, conspires against the soul of the individual. When we align our sense of worth with the shifting judgments of the crowd, we surrender the sanctuary of our own spirit. Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members. This isn't an indictment of ambition or achievement. Rather, it is a call to awareness. Are you building your life on borrowed dreams? Have your desires been shaped by your truth, or by the billboards, influencers, and narratives crafted to sell you a version of happiness that profits others? The modern world seduces us with milestones, and yet, the joy of their attainment is fleeting, and the house becomes routine. The applause fades, the title feels hollow. And so we seek the next thing, and the next. A cycle of hunger masked as progress. And what of the inner world? Neglected, silenced, paved over by the demands of endless acquisition. This is the true cost of external happiness. It demands the forfeiture of presence. It pulls us away from who we are and into who we think we should be. This is why Emerson insisted that the only true progress is inward. He urged us to retreat from the noise and to ask the most radical question of all. What do I want? Not as society has told me, but as my soul longs for. Happiness is not a destination at the end of achievement. It is not an accessory to success. It is a quiet companion that lives in alignment, when our thoughts, feelings, and actions flow from the same source, the self, uncorrupted. To see through the illusion is not to abandon life, but to begin living it with eyes wide open. And once we truly see that the chase for external validation leads only to emptiness, we are ready to hear something far more valuable. A voice, small, persistent, buried beneath years of noise. It is the voice that has always been calling. But in a world filled with noise, distractions, and expectations, how can we hear it? There is a voice within you. It does not shout. It does not argue. It does not beg for attention. It waits. In the sacred stillness between thoughts, beyond the scroll of endless screens and the clamor of obligations, this voice lives. It is not the voice of the ego, with its rehearsed opinions and borrowed beliefs. No, it is older than that. It is the voice of the soul. And yet, how often is it drowned out? From the moment we wake, the noise begins. Notifications, deadlines, headlines, responsibilities. We are taught to fill every quiet moment with input, every pause with productivity. Silence becomes suspicious. Stillness is seen as laziness. But Emerson reminds us that without solitude, there can be no clarity. Without retreat, no return. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. This inner voice, your essence, is subtle but steadfast. It is the part of you that knows, even when you pretend not to. It whispers truths you avoid. It suggests paths you fear. And always, it waits. Why do we ignore it? Because it often contradicts the roles we play. Because it disrupts the stories we've been rewarded for believing. Because it asks us to slow down when the world worships speed. But the price of ignoring it is steep. A life of quiet misalignment, of waking each day with a sense that something essential has been misplaced. Emerson wrote of the importance of listening not just to books or authorities, but to the self, to the divine spark within. He believed that intuition is not whimsy, but the language of the eternal. That the soul, in its own rhythm, knows what the intellect may take years to understand. In our culture of endless opinions and curated personas, listening inward becomes a radical act. But how do we begin? We begin by embracing silence, by honoring stillness. 10 minutes without distraction becomes a doorway. A walk in nature becomes a dialogue. A journal becomes a mirror. These are not spiritual luxuries. They are spiritual necessities, because only in the absence of external noise can the internal symphony be heard. And what it tells you will not always be easy, but it will always be true. And in that truth lies freedom, the kind of freedom that no law, title, or possession can provide. This voice is not trying to make you better. It is trying to make you real. And in becoming real, you become free. But if freedom is an inner state, why do so many still feel imprisoned, despite changing jobs, cities, partners, and lives? Next, we explore the illusion that freedom lies in the external and why real liberation begins from within. You can change the scenery, but if the script remains the same, the story does not transform. This is the great paradox of modern life. We rearrange the furniture of our circumstances endlessly. New cities, new careers, new relationships, new beliefs, hoping that the reshuffling will silence the ache. And yet, no matter how far we travel, or how meticulously we curate our outer world, the same disquiet lingers, just beneath the surface. Why? Because what binds us is not out there. The true chains are forged in the mind and fastened in the heart. Ralph Waldo Emerson saw clearly that real freedom does not come from the right conditions, but from the right relationship with oneself. A person may live in luxury, surrounded by abundance, yet feel suffocated by anxiety, loneliness, or the burden of inauthenticity. Meanwhile, another may walk a quiet path with little acclaim and yet radiate peace, because they have made peace with their own nature. Nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. This is not to dismiss the struggles born of real hardship. It is to say that many of our internal prisons are built from invisible materials: comparison, fear, guilt, self-betrayal. We believe that if we could just change our outer lives, we'd finally be free. But Emerson, ever the spiritual realist, knew that a soul out of alignment will carry its restlessness wherever it goes. Look around. There are those who have everything and yet feel empty. The artist who has lost their inspiration after commercial success. The executive who earns millions but cannot sleep. The influencer who smiles for the camera but weeps when the lights go off. These are not failures of achievement. They are signals that achievement alone cannot fulfill a spiritual hunger. True freedom is not the absence of constraint, but the presence of alignment. It is living in such a way that the outer reflects the inner, not the other way around. It is the courage to say, "This life I'm building, is it mine? Or am I constructing a palace in which my soul feels like a guest?" Freedom is found when we dare to be still long enough to confront what we've been avoiding. It is born in the choice to let go of a mask we've worn too long. It arises when we choose integrity over approval and meaning over momentum. And once this truth is glimpsed, the illusion of circumstantial freedom begins to crumble. Because we no longer chase liberty, we begin to embody it. But what happens when we finally stop running? When we turn around and face ourselves with honesty? That's when something sacred begins, the return to authenticity, the first step toward inner peace. We spend our lives becoming what the world applauds, rarely pausing to ask who we were before the world told us who to be. We wear masks, subtle, adaptive, carefully stitched, one for work, one for family, one for society at large. We become fluent in performance, experts in image management. But beneath the applause, the promotions, the curated identities, a quiet, suffering bruise. Not the loud suffering of trauma or failure, but the quiet ache of self-betrayal. Emerson, in his insistence on the primacy of the self, warned against the perils of conformity, not just to institutions, but to the expectations of others that silence our innermost truth. He believed that every individual has a unique genius, a voice that is not to be imitated or compromised. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. To conform is not only to mimic the outer world, but to abandon the inner world. And every time we abandon ourselves, saying yes when we mean no, smiling when we feel pain, agreeing to belong rather than risking rejection, we fracture a little more. The soul recoils, anxiety rushes in, depression plants roots, because peace cannot grow in falsehood. To be authentic is not to be perfect, or rebellious, or even certain. It is to be honest, unapologetically honest about who we are, what we value, what we feel, and what we long for. It is to choose truth over performance, alignment over approval. But this is not easy. We live in a culture that rewards pretense and punishes vulnerability, and so we learn to hide. We smile when we're breaking. We nod when our spirit screams no. We betray ourselves in order to be loved, forgetting that love gained at the cost of the self is not love at all. The return to authenticity begins with the smallest act, awareness. Ask yourself, where am I pretending? Where am I silent when I need to speak? Where am I agreeable when I feel resistance? These questions are not threats. They are invitations. They lead us back to the sacred terrain of the real. And here's the beautiful irony. The more we live in our truth, the more peace we discover. Because it takes enormous energy to live a lie. It takes nothing to be yourself. Authenticity is not a finish line. It is a daily practice, a decision, a risk. But the rewards are soul deep. And when we finally drop the mask, when we speak, walk, and live from our center, something shifts. We stop searching for home, because we have returned to it. But once we shed the illusions and reclaim our truth, what sustains us? What gives us the strength to stand alone? That strength is found not in others, but within, the quiet power of spiritual self-sufficiency. There is a lie, woven into the fabric of modern spirituality, that whispers, you are not enough. You need a method, a mentor, a retreat, a set of rituals, a guru, a secret, something, anything, outside of you to complete the journey. The soul, we are told, must be guided like a child, always dependent on the wisdom of another. But what if that dependency is the very thing keeping us from awakening? Emerson didn't merely question this paradigm, he shattered it. He believed that the divine is not a distant force to be accessed through intermediaries, but a living presence already within. You are not a seeker of truth. You are an expression of it. There is no path to your essence. You are standing on it. The soul becomes. It is not taught, it unfolds. Spiritual self-sufficiency is not spiritual isolation. It is not arrogance, it is reverence. Reverence for the quiet brilliance within you, for the voice that whispers when the world goes quiet. It is trusting your own experience, your own knowing, above all doctrines or dogmas. It does not mean you will never seek help, insight, or inspiration from others, but it means you do so without handing over your sovereignty. You are not a passive student of life. You are its co-creator. In our hunger to heal, we often outsource our power. We follow systems blindly, idolize teachers, and adopt beliefs like costumes. But true growth begins when we ask, does this resonate with my soul, or merely with my fear? Spiritual self-sufficiency does not demand you walk alone, but that you walk awake. It invites you to stop waiting, to stop delaying your becoming until the next book, teacher, or ritual. It dares you to sit in silence, to feel the full weight of your humanity, and to hear what your soul has been trying to tell you all along, that you are not broken, that nothing essential is missing, that the approval of others is a poor substitute for your own. This kind of strength is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It radiates quietly from within. It expresses itself in boundaries that honor your truth, in choices that reflect your essence, in a life not performed but lived. And when you stop begging the world for permission to be whole, an unshakable peace takes root, because you are no longer at the mercy of outside forces. You've come home to the one power no one can take from you, your own soul, fully remembered. But how do we remain anchored in that inner truth when time rushes us forward and the mind spins endlessly in past and future? To truly live in peace, we must learn to dwell where the soul speaks, in the eternal now. The mind is a restless traveler. It hurries ahead into futures that haven't happened, replaying fears that never materialize, or it drifts backward, haunted by echoes of what could have been, should have been, or never was. Rarely does it sit, rarely is it here. But the soul does not live in memory or imagination. It lives in the present. Ralph Waldo Emerson understood this long before mindfulness became a cultural trend. He knew that time is an illusion, that the only place where the self is fully alive is this moment, not the next, not the last. Now, with the past, I have nothing to do, nor with the future. I live now. And yet, living now is not as simple as it sounds. We are conditioned to race through life, treating each moment as a bridge to the next. We wait for happiness to arrive, after the promotion, after the healing, after we figure things out. We mistake planning for progress and rumination for reflection. In truth, we are often anywhere but here. But peace does not wait for the future to unfold. It blossoms when we stop, resisting what already is. To dwell in the present is to come into contact with life as it is, not as we fear it, wish it, or manipulate it to be. It is to step out of the storm of thought and into the calm of being. And that being is not passive, it is powerful, because in presence we reclaim our freedom. The anxious mind that plans compulsively loses touch with the infinite intelligence that lives in the now. The depressed mind that clings to past pain forgets that healing begins not in time, but in attention. Emerson didn't urge escape from reality. He called for a deeper immersion in it. To live presently is to listen to ourselves, to life, to silence. It is to feel the breath, to observe the thought without becoming it, to speak from intention, not reaction. So how do we return to now? Breathe consciously. The breath is the anchor of presence. Pause before reacting. In the space between impulse and action lies freedom. Feel fully. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. Observe your thoughts without judgment. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. In presence, the future loses its grip, and the past loses its sting. Here, you remember who you are, not the identity shaped by time, but the awareness that watches time flow. This is why presence is not just a tool for peace. It is peace. It is the portal to your essence. And the more you return to it, the more you realize nothing outside of this moment is necessary for wholeness. It's already here. And yet, even in stillness, we forget. We drift. But nature, wild, honest, unfiltered, calls us back to our essence. Next, we'll see how the natural world reflects what we've always known inside. Step into a forest, and the mind slows. Watch the ocean, and something ancient in you stirs. Sit beneath the stars, and suddenly, your problems shrink to their proper size. Why? Because nature does not perform. It does not seek approval, compete, or compare. It simply is. And in that being, it becomes the clearest mirror of the soul. Emerson, more than perhaps any of his contemporaries, saw nature not as scenery, but as scripture. He believed that to walk among the trees was to commune with the divine, not the divine in the sky, but the divine within. He wrote, "Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. This is not poetry, it is revelation. What you see outside is a reflection of what you carry within. The chaos of your thoughts distorts the world. The stillness of your presence clarifies it. A turbulent mind will find noise in even the quietest valley, but a peaceful mind sees eternity in a single leaf. Nature teaches not by words but by example. The river does not resist the stone, it flows around it. The tree does not fear the winter, it sheds what must fall. The flower does not doubt its beauty, it opens when the time is right. Each element of the natural world lives in perfect obedience to its essence. Can we say the same? Too often we try to force bloom in the wrong season. We resist the inner winters that come to rest us. We fear the shedding of old identities, forgetting that only by letting go can we grow anew. When we return to nature, we return to sanity, to simplicity, to truth. Even a moment of communion, a sunrise, a walk. Without a phone, the sound of rain becomes a portal, because in those moments, we are no longer consumed by the mind's demands. We become watchers, listeners, participants in something vast, timeless and whole. And something else happens too. In nature, we remember that we are not separate, not above or outside, but part of it. The ego dissolves, the roles fall away, and what remains is presence, reverence, a deep, unspoken knowing. This is enough. I am enough. So let nature remind you. Let the sky reflect your vastness. Let the mountain mirror your strength. Let the wind teach you movement. Let the quiet of the woods call you back to your own, not as a lesson, but as a remembering. Because you are not lost. You've just been looking in places that have forgotten how to see you. But even when surrounded by beauty, we often falter, trapped by a hidden poison, the urge to compare, and the fear of being different. Next, we explore the subtle chains of comparison and how breaking them reconnects us to our deepest truth. You scroll, you see them, smiling, succeeding, seemingly soaring. A twinge rises. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's sharp, but it's there. A quiet voice that whispers, they are ahead, you are behind. This is the lie of comparison. A lie so widespread, so culturally embedded, that we rarely question it. We accept it like gravity, like air, an unspoken contract that says our value must be measured against someone else's. But comparison is not a neutral observation. It is a distortion. It takes your unique soul and judges it by someone else's timeline, talent, or path. It makes your journey feel insufficient. And worst of all, it plants the seed of fear. Fear that you're too late. Fear that you'll never be enough. Fear that your gifts, your voice, your very being will be overlooked. But Emerson, bold in solitude, fierce in self-reliance, knew better. Envy is ignorance. Imitation is suicide. To envy is to deny your own path. To imitate is to abandon your own genius. And each time we do so, we drift further from the center of our being. Comparison blinds us. It convinces us that we must become someone else to be loved, seen, or successful. But true fulfillment never comes through mimicry. It comes through alignment with your essence, your pace, your truth. The truth is this: no two lives are meant to look alike. The oak does not compare itself to the pine. The river does not measure itself against the sea. Nature thrives through diversity. Why should the soul be any different? And fear, the twin of comparison, thrives in disconnection. It feeds on the belief that you are separate, vulnerable, incomplete. But when you return to yourself, fully and without apology, fear begins to dissolve. Because what is there to fear when you are no longer pretending? This is not a call to indifference. It is a call to reverence for your path, your rhythm, your being. The moment you stop measuring your worth through someone else's mirror is the moment you remember that you already shine. So how do we break the spell? Withdraw attention from the performance of others. Their journey is not your curriculum. Turn comparison into inspiration. If you admire something, ask how it awakens what already lives within you. Sit with fear instead of fleeing from it. It loses power when faced, not avoided. Speak your truth even when your voice trembles. Each time you do, you reclaim a piece of yourself. The soul does not bloom in competition. It flourishes in authenticity. And once you break free from the need to compare, you step into something sacred. A life lived on your own terms, in your own time. But in order to truly hear that voice, to feel that freedom, something else must shift. We must return to simplicity, because only in simplicity does the soul finally feel at home. There is a noise that never stops, not the sound of traffic or machines, but the noise of more to do, more to buy, more to prove. The modern mind lives in this hum, restless, unsatisfied, reaching always for the next thing. But what if peace is not something you gain? What if peace is something revealed when everything unnecessary falls away? Ralph Waldo Emerson, who often retreated into nature and solitude, saw the pursuit of simplicity not as asceticism, but as wisdom. In a culture that equates success with accumulation, Emerson inverted the equation. Nothing is more simple than greatness. Indeed, to be simple is to be great. To be simple is not to live without beauty or ambition or comfort. It is to live without excess thought, excess fear, excess noise. It is to subtract everything that disconnects you from your soul. Simplicity is not about having less. It is about needing less. It's the spaciousness of mind that comes from not filling every minute with stimulation. It's the clarity of heart that comes from no longer people-pleasing. It's the quiet dignity of a life not lived for validation, but from truth. The irony of modern complexity is this: we are overwhelmed, not because life is too full, but because it is too cluttered. And much of what we carry, obligations, roles, resentments, ambitions we've outgrown, was never truly ours. So how do we return to simplicity? Clean your space, and you clear your mind. The outer reflects the inner. Speak fewer words, but with more meaning. Let your voice be intentional, not habitual. Do fewer things, but with greater presence. Multitasking fractures the spirit. Question what you chase. Does it bring you peace, or only the illusion of it? This is the paradox. As you simplify, your inner world expands. The voice within grows louder. Your values become clearer. Joy returns in the smallest of places. A conversation, a breath, a morning light falling across the floor. Not because anything changed, but because you finally became still enough to see. In simplicity, the soul exhales. It no longer needs to perform or compete or explain itself. It is enough, here, now, unburdened. And in this spaciousness, a question quietly arises, not one of lack, but of arrival. What remains when nothing is forced and everything is honest? And this brings us to the final threshold, not just knowing who you are, but having the courage to live it fully. Next, we arrive at the final key, inhabiting your truth, the soul's ultimate sanctuary. There comes a moment in every life when pretending is no longer bearable, when the soul, wearied from years of compromise and performance, rises in quiet, rebellion, and says, "No more." Not out of anger, but out of reverence. That moment is the beginning of a return. A return not to who you were told to be, or who you became to survive, but to who you have always been. It is the moment you no longer know the truth, you live it. Emerson called for this with urgency, compassion, and fire. To him, truth was not an abstract principle. It was life's deepest commandment. He wrote, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. But to leave a trail, you must first leave the crowd." To inhabit your truth is to no longer negotiate your essence for comfort. It is to risk misunderstanding in order to live in alignment. It is to speak even when your voice shakes, to create what has never existed before simply because it pulses through you. This truth isn't merely intellectual, it is visceral. It is how your body feels when you say yes and mean it. It's the relief of walking away from what no longer serves you. It's the radiance of doing something solely because it brings you alive. But make no mistake, living your truth will cost you. It may cost you relationships built on roles. It may cost you jobs that reward conformity. It may cost you the comfort of blending in. But what you gain is beyond price: integrity, clarity, peace. Because truth is not a set of beliefs, it is a way of being. And when you begin to live from this place, your very presence changes. You no longer chase peace. You are peace. You no longer seek permission. You carry your own authority. You no longer need to convince anyone of anything. You know, inhabiting your truth doesn't mean you never fall. It means you fall in the right direction, toward greater wholeness, toward deeper authenticity, toward a life that, while perhaps not always easy, is always yours. This is the Emersonian life, not one of echo, but of original voice, not one of borrowed light, but of internal fire. And when you live this way, something miraculous happens. The world begins to shift around you, not because it has changed, but because you have. And in that shift, others find the courage to do the same. Because the soul, once seen, gives others permission to be seen too. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a life no longer negotiated, a life that stands in the full light of your truth, unshaken. If this message touched you, if a seed stirred in your heart, I invite you to honor it. Subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the soul. Comment below where you're watching from. Let us know how this message found you. And as a sacred act of intention, Write this affirmation in the comments. I live in alignment with my truth, and I am free. Then, explore the other teachings in this space. There is more light waiting for you. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly where your soul has brought you. Welcome home.